this is Jason DeCanio, welcoming you back once again to Jay's Retro Toys and Games for Monday, May 23rd, 2022. It is officially our 20th episode of our series on YouTube, and we're so happy that you have joined us here. Hope you had a great weekend. Tonight, we're talking about a very special toy that has been near and dear to my heart. I collected all of their figures. I watched the cartoon, and that's why we bought the figures. Because if it wasn't for the cartoon, well, we wouldn't have the figures to go with them so we could play along with them. How we're going to do this, because it's such a big toy line, and of course we're going to be talking about the most powerful man in the universe that goes with it, He-Man. But what we're going to do is we're going to be looking at the two toys. So that would be today's toy, which is the Masters of the Universe. And then tomorrow we'll look at the Rebellion for She-Ra. Then the next time we do the toys episode, again, or when we come back to it later on, we'll look at He-Man and She-Ra separately. But tonight on episode 20, we're looking at the toy line that is a Sword and Planet-themed franchise created by Mattel. The main premise revolves around the conflict between He-Man and Skeletor on the planet Eternia, with a vast lineup of supporting characters in a hybrid setting of medieval sword and sorcery and sci-fi technology. And the follow-up series, She-Ra, Princess of Power, revolves around He-Man's sister She-Ra and her rebellion against the Horde on the planet Etheria. Since its initial launch, the franchise has spawned a variety of products, including multiple lines of action figures, 6 animated television series, several comic series, video games, books, and magazines, a daily newspaper comic strip, and 2 feature films. Who we're looking at today, Masters of the Universe, we'll start it off with right now on Jay's Retro Toys and Games. We're ready to go, and I hope you are. Welcome to this edition. Episode 20 is coming out of the starting gate right now. Masters of the Universe. Well, you can't get any more 80s toyish and retro than this. Let's look at the series overview. You know, He-Man and the accompanying Masters of the Universe franchise would make their debut in 1981 with Mattel's release of the original Masters of the Universe 5.5-inch action figure toy line. Now, Masters of the Universe, often abbreviated as MOTU, would begin its mythos through the mini-comics that accompanied the toys throughout the 1980s. These initial mini-comics were soon followed by several children's books and issues of DC Comics. However, the Masters of the Universe franchise would become best known through Filmation's groundbreaking He-Man and the Masters of the Universe animated series. Debuting in the fall of 1983, the Filmation series ran 130 episodes over 2 seasons until November 1985. Since its inception, Masters of the Universe has usually placed its focus on the 2 primary characters, the blonde, muscular He-Man, the most powerful man in the universe, and his nemesis, the evil, skull-faced, blue-skinned sorcerer, Skeletor, and their many moral-themed encounters on the planet Eternia. Set in a hybrid world of sword and sorcery and technological sci-fi, He-Man battles with Skeletor to prevent him from conquering Eternia and discovering the secrets of Castle Grayskull, which is a mysterious ancient fortress with a skull-shaped facade containing great power and magic. You know, as with many toy franchises that have been transferred to several different media, there are a number of story differences between the various versions of Masters of the Universe, and in most continuities, from the Filmation series onward, He-Man is the secret identity of Prince Adam, the son of King Randor and Queen Marlena, the ruling royal family of Eternia. Adam becomes He-Man by holding aloft his magic power sword and uttering the words, "By the power of Grayskull," and serves as the protector of good on Eternia. He is first given this ability by the sorceress of Castle Grayskull, a powerful magic user and mystic guardian of the castle, who in many depictions is able to transfer herself into the falcon Zoar. Upon Adam's transformation into He-Man, his cowardly green pet tiger, Cringer, becomes the mighty Battle Cat, a giant armored beast that He-Man often rides into battle. He-Man's most prominent allies include Man-at-Arms, a wise, loyal veteran soldier and inventor, and his adopted daughter, Teela, a spirited and skilled female warrior, often portrayed as captain of the Eternian Royal Guard, and a potential love interest of He-Man, Prince Adam. The childlike Trollian magician Orko also often features as one of He-Man's closest allies, as does Stratos, a flying birdman from the kingdom of Avion, Ram Man, a stout, dim-witted warrior with spring-like legs and a large helmet that encloses his head and upper torso, and Manny Faces, which is an actor with face-changing abilities. Skeletor is originally described as an evil being from another dimension, and in some later Masters of the Universe lore, as a disfigured and vengeful relative of the royal family known as Keldor. From his lair on Snake Mountain, Skeletor would assemble his evil warriors to assist in his various schemes to conquer Eternia. These core minions usually include Beastman, which is an orange-furred, ape-like master of the beasts, Merman, an aquatic fish-like ocean warlord, Evelyn, a powerful sorceress, and one of Skeletor's most feared and competent associates. Then you have Trapjaw, an iron-jawed criminal with a mechanical arm that can be fitted by a various assortment of weapons, and Triclops, a mercenary swordsman with a rotating three-eyed visor. The series would feature a wide and ever-expanding cast of heroic and villainous characters added to the toy line, the Filmation cartoon, and other media, with the franchise far outshining prior expectations, continuing to grow through 1983 and 1984. The release of the animated cartoon movie He-Man and She-Ra, The Secret of the Sword, in the spring of '85, introduced He-Man's twin sister She-Ra with her secret alter ego Princess Adora, and the arch-villain Hordak, leader of the evil Horde, and the former master of Skeletor on the planet Etheria. Stemming from the animated movie, Filmation went on to produce 93 episodes of the series She-Ra, Princess of Power, which ran until the end of 1986, along with He-Man and She-Ra, the Christmas special. Other main characters of the She-Ra series would include Swiftwind, which was the winged unicorn and alter ego of She-Ra's trusty steed Spirit, Light Hope, mystical living beam of light and mentor to She-Ra, and her great rebellion of allies, Glimmer, magically inclined one-time leader of the rebellion, Bo, skilled archer and the main male protagonist of the series, Cal, who is Bo's owl-like rainbow-eared companion, Madame Raz, absent-minded witch with her sarcastic sentient broom, and Queen Angela, Glimmer's mother and angel-winged queen of the bright moon, along with Hordak's spell-casting witch Shadow Weaver, shape-shifting spy Imp, bumbling bug-eyed henchman Mantena, Force Squad Captain Catra, evil scientist Modulok, beastly warrior Grizzlor, energy-draining Leech, and thuggist henchwoman Scorpia. Various children's books, magazines, comics, read-along records, and cassette tapes and other merchandise were also released worldwide around this time, with much of the content based primarily on the Filmation He-Man and She-Ra series. The live-action film Masters of the Universe was released in 1987 by Canon Films, starring Dolph Lundgren and Frank Langella. The later 1980s mini-comics, Marvel Comics series, and UK Magazine Comics continued the adventures of He-Man and She-Ra past the end of the two Filmation series. However, popularity had waned by the end of 1987, and a planned continuation of the original toy line under the heading of The Powers of Grayskull, set in ancient Eternia, featured the villain King Hiss and He-Man's ancestor Hero, was started, but eventually scrapped. He-Man would be brought back in 1989 in an entirely new and space-based cartoon series and toy line known as The New Adventures of He-Man. Only He-Man and Skeletor would return as major characters to join the battle between Galactic Guardians and Space Mutants on the planet Primus. Jetlag Productions would go on to produce 65 episodes of the New Adventures cartoon, with a few mini-comics and adventure magazines also created for this new series. Ultimately, though, the series would not be as successful, and the entire franchise would go on a hiatus for more than a decade. And after some success with a commemorative series, re-release of the classic action figures in 2000, Mattel relaunched the toy line with all new action figures, playsets, and vehicles sculpted by Four Horsemen Studios in 2002. And as part of the relaunch, a modern updated animated series was also created by Mike Young Productions, lasting for 39 episodes, featuring He-Man and his ensemble of heroic warriors, now called the Masters of the Universe, battling Skeletor's minions and later King Hiss, the ancient and evil lord of the Snake Men. Characters such as Mechaneck, hero warrior with a mechanical extending neck, Buzz-Off, heroic bee-like flying Android warrior, Clawful, which was a large villainous crab-like henchman, Whiplash, evil reptilian Caligar with a deadly tail, Stinkor, foul-smelling mutated Palazinian, and many others would gain more prominent backstories during this series. Several volumes of comic books were also produced to go along with the series by Image Comics and MV Creations. And although popular with longtime fans and collectors, with mini statue figures being released by NECA until 2007, the new series failed to catch on with a larger audience and was canceled in 2004. From 2008 to 2020, a new assortment of Masters of the Universe action figures has been released under the banner of Masters of the Universe Classics, primarily geared toward the collector's market. The series made up an entirely new story and classic bios, and used various elements from previous Masters of the Universe lore, many times changing those elements to suit the new story, with characters from all previous incarnations, and also featured a continuation of the original mini-comics line. DC Comics would soon follow suit and relaunch a new, grittier, contemporary version of the Masters of the Universe franchise, releasing various new comic book series from 2012 until 2020, featuring crossovers with the DC Comics universe, Thundercats, and a new origin for She-Ra, culminating in Hordak's conquest of Eternia. In 2020, Mattel released a new line of 5.5 scale action figures, vehicles, and playsets under the Masters of the Universe Origins line. Netflix and DreamWorks released an animated series entitled She-Ra and the Princess of Power in 2018, which released 5 seasons until 2020. This was followed in 2021 by Masters of the Universe Revelation, a new Netflix animated series produced by Kevin Smith. Now, Mattel began development of He-Man and the Masters of the Universe in the late 70s with Conan the Barbarian, inspired concepts from Roger Sweet, Mark Taylor, Donald F. Glut, and several other contributors. The catalyst for the creation of He-Man began in 1976 when Mattel's CEO Ray Wagner declined a request to produce a toy line of action figures based on the characters from the George Lucas film Star Wars, with the film's toy rights being acquired by Kenner instead. Upon the commercial success of the film trilogy and all related merchandise during the next few years, Mattel attempted to relaunch or launch several unsuccessful toy lines, none of which captured the public's imagination or made a significant dent in the toy market. In the race to design the next hit action figure, Roger Sweet, a lead designer working for Mattel's preliminary design department throughout much of the 70s and 80s, according to his book Mastering the Universe, He-Man and the Rise and Fall of a Billion-Dollar Idea, was the first to conceptualize the idea of He-Man. However, this is not officially acknowledged by Mattel, and authorship of the He-Man character has been subject to debate. According to various former Mattel designers, Roger Sweet drew inspiration for the designs of his first He-Man prototypes from fantasy drawings of Mattel packaging designer Mark Taylor, which included a drawing of a He-Man-like character called Torak. Now, Roger Sweet presented the He-Man concept to Ray Wagner at the Mattel Product Conference in the form of 3 large, 3-dimensional plastic prototype models, which Sweet dubbed the He-Man Trio. These prototypes were molded from extensively modified Big Jim action figures. And Battle Cat would also be adapted from a tiger in the Big Jim toy line. The He-Man trio models were an axe-wielding barbarian, a tank-headed soldier, and a spaceman with a Boba Fett-like helmet. Now, out of the three concepts, the barbarian version of He-Man was chosen to be the basis of the toy line, and this original trio prototype idea was released around 30 years later as the figure Vicron, and the barbarian concept on its own as Vicor in the Masters of the Universe Classics line. Here's a quote from Roger Sweet. He says, "The only way I was going to have a chance to sell this to Wagner was to make 3D models, or 3D models, big ones. I glued a Big Jim figure from another Mattel toy line into a battle action pose, and I added a lot of clay to his body. I then had plaster casts made. These three prototypes, which I presented in late 1980, brought He-Man into existence. I simply explained that this was a powerful figure that could be taken anywhere and dropped into any context because he had a generic name, He-Man. Now, originally set under the working title Lords of Power, the name Masters of the Universe came into being when it was suggested that the former name of the toy line was too religious in nature. The roster of characters would soon expand past the main hero, He-Man, and Mark Taylor would draw inspiration for the series' main villain, Skeletor, from his 1971 sketch entitled The King of Sticks, along with early renderings of his characters, Demo Man and D-Man. Now, Taylor would create preliminary designs for several other original characters as well, with additional ideas of direction from Mark Ellis and Paul Cleveland, among others. But the premise behind the toy line had not yet been fully established. The backstory of He-Man was first conceptualized for specific mini comic books that Mattel marketing director Mark Ellis promised distributors would accompany the toys. Mattel had DC Comics mock up a comic book with the earliest storybooks written by Donald F. Glut. With major distributor Toys R Us concerned that 5-year-olds don't read, Mark Ellis then first proposed the idea of an animated TV special. This would eventually lead to a meeting with Filmation head Lou Scheimer and the creation of the He-Man and the Masters of the Universe animated series. Now, earlier in 1980, the rights holders of Conan the Barbarian had been negotiating the character's toy rights with Mattel, and they entered into an agreement the following year regarding characters from the 1982 Conan movie. However, with Mattel introducing the Masters of the Universe toy line in 1982, the rights holders sued Mattel, claiming the character was an infringement on the character of Conan. Well, Mattel eventually won the lawsuit, and after legal agreements were dissolved, it was stated that the toy line was never intended for the Conan film. However, some Conan influence can be seen, as Roger Sweet has claimed to have drawn some inspiration from the paintings of Frank Frazetta, a fantasy artist with many works depicting Conan the Barbarian when creating He-Man. And we're going to stop there because I think that's a lot to ingest in 18 minutes plus with everything else here. When we come back next time on Wednesday, we're going to look at the continuing look at the early action figures and comics of the Masters of the Universe. And then on Friday, we'll go back to our games segment where we're going to be looking at an interesting game called Sorry. That's right. And now I'm going to look to see if there is a long history on the Sorry game before I do anything else. Sorry game. There we go. I hope it's not. I hope it's a good one. Yeah, maybe. We could look at that one. Or we can do Parcheesi, actually. Parcheesi is actually the equivalent to Sorry. And it never had a history. Interesting. We can also look at Backgammon. Let's see, Backgammon. Okay, let's see. Backgammon. Oh, yeah. We can do that. So we'll look at Backgammon on Friday, but coming up this Wednesday on episode 21, it's part 2 of Masters of the Universe. From all of us here at Jay's Retro Toys and Games, and by that I mean from all of us in the Facebook group, we thank you for your continued support of our show. And, of course, do look us up on YouTube because we have so much more to go with and to tell you about. And we thank you most definitely in the new Facebook group. Please continue to support the channel and do your best to subscribe and hit that like button. And don't forget to also comment, too. Share your experiences with us. Because we're going to have, coming up in June, I mentioned in the Facebook groups that we're going to have live Q&A StreamYard sessions where you'll be able to come in and chat with everybody that's in there. I'll give you a heads up as to what we'll probably do that once or twice a month. It'll get the channel's watch hours up big time if we do some live sessions. Okay, so we'll work out the bugs and the details and all of that stuff on the next time we get together. I'll keep mentioning that as we head into Memorial Day weekend. All right, from all of us here at Jay's Retro Toys and Games, I'm Jason DeCanio. Have a great Monday. We'll see you on Wednesday. Bye for now.
Don't forget to subscribe to the David3000 Network for great more content like this one.